One in three people you know is lonely right now, and they'll never tell you. Why are we all pretending this isn't happening? You've been taught to call it social anxiety, introversion, being too busy, needing alone time. But here's what you're actually experiencing: the predictable outcome of a culture that monetized human connection and then acted surprised when we couldn't afford it anymore. Loneliness isn't a character flaw. It's a societal design feature, and you've been living inside it so long you think the walls are natural. They aren't. Every single system around you was built in the last 70 years, and before that, we lived completely differently. I spent 3 years thinking I was broken because I felt lonely in a city of 8 million people. I had coworkers, I had a partner, I had a gym membership and a favorite coffee shop where they knew my order. From the outside, I looked connected. But every single night I'd sit in my apartment with this feeling I can only describe as homesickness, except I was already home. Let's talk about what actually changed. In 1950, the average American had regular, unstructured contact with 14 people per day, not planned hangouts, not scheduled coffee dates, just people you'd run into because your life overlapped with theirs naturally. The mailman who walked the same route, the neighbor whose kid played with yours, the shopkeeper you saw 3 times a week. By 2020, that number dropped to 2.7. Your grandparents didn't have better social skills than you. They had infrastructure. They had front porches instead of private backyards. They had corner stores instead of Walmart supercenters 20 minutes away. They had church basements and union halls and bowling leagues that met every Thursday whether you felt like it or not. The structure of their physical world forced repeated, unplanned contact with the same people. You don't have that, you have efficiency, you have convenience. But here's where it gets darker. You know that feeling when you're lonely and you think about reaching out, but then you stop yourself because it feels desperate or awkward or like you're bothering someone? That's not social anxiety. That's called impression management, and it's a documented psychological response to living in a transactional social economy. When every interaction feels like it needs to be justified, scheduled, and worth someone's time, you stop initiating them. You wait to be chosen instead of choosing. The research calls this the belonging uncertainty principle. When you're not sure if you're actually wanted, you perform emotional cost-benefit analysis before every social risk. Will this text annoy them? Am I being too much? Did I already initiate last time? You're not overthinking. You're responding rationally to a social environment that punished spontaneous connection and rewarded self-sufficiency. You learned that needing people makes you a burden. So you stopped admitting you needed anyone, even to yourself, especially to yourself. Now let's talk about why nobody's talking about this honestly. In 2023, the loneliness epidemic was declared a public health crisis by the Surgeon General. You know what happened next? Almost nothing. No structural changes, no policy reforms, just articles telling you to join a book club or volunteer more, as if loneliness is solved by hobbies. They're treating a societal infrastructure collapse like it's a personal time management problem. Here's what they're not saying: loneliness is profitable. When you're isolated, you consume more. You buy convenience, entertainment, delivery, streaming, anything to fill the void that used to be filled by people who were just around. The average lonely person spends 18% more on goods and services than their socially connected counterpart. That's not a coincidence. That's a business model. Every platform promising to connect you is monetizing your disconnection. Parasocial relationships are the methadone clinic of human connection. You're not pathetic for feeling like you know a podcaster you've never met. You're responding to a deliberately engineered intimacy substitute. These platforms studied what bonding looks like, the vulnerability, the consistency, the illusion of mutual knowing, and they replicated it in one direction. You get the neurochemical reward of connection without the risk or reciprocity. It feels like friendship, but requires nothing from you except attention. And that attention is the product being sold. The architecture of your entire life was built to keep you isolated, and you paid for every brick yourself. You want to know why your friendships feel so hard to maintain? Because you're trying to sustain them on infrastructure designed for transactions, not relationships. Every hangout requires 3 days of scheduling via text. Every conversation competes with notifications. Every shared meal is interrupted by someone checking their phone because we've normalized continuous partial attention. You're not bad at friendship. Friendship is trying to grow in concrete, and you're wondering why it keeps dying. The environment is hostile. You didn't build the environment. But here's the thing they really don't want you to realize. Your loneliness is not evidence of your inadequacy. It's evidence of your sanity. You're supposed to feel this way when your mammalian nervous system, designed for tribal groups of 50 to 150 people, is suddenly expected to maintain weak-tie networks of 800 online connections while living alone in a box and commuting an hour to work in another box. The dissonance you feel isn't you malfunctioning. It's you correctly identifying that something is deeply, structurally wrong. So what changed for me? I stopped treating loneliness like a problem I needed to solve alone. I started saying it out loud, not performatively on social media, but directly, awkwardly to the specific people I actually wanted to be closer to. I said, I feel disconnected and I miss you. Can we do something regular, not just when we remember? And you know what happened? 4 out of 5 people said they felt the exact same way and were just waiting for someone else to say it first. The transformation wasn't immediate and it wasn't magic. But I stopped waiting for friendship to feel effortless like it supposedly did when we were kids. Adult connection requires scaffolding. We built it deliberately. Sunday dinners, no phones allowed. A group chat that's actually active because we treat it like a place we show up to, not a broadcast channel. We show up even when we don't feel like it, especially then, because consistency is the thing we're all missing. You can't have intimacy without reliability. If I knew this earlier, I would have changed how I measured my worth. For years, I thought my loneliness meant I was defective, socially incompetent, fundamentally unlikable. I didn't understand that I was experiencing a historically unprecedented social arrangement and mistaking it for personal failure. You're living through the largest natural experiment in human isolation ever conducted, and nobody got your consent. You're one of millions living alone, working from home, outsourcing every errand, having fewer children, moving away from family. None of that is inherently wrong. Here's what you do with this information. First, stop pathologizing yourself. Your loneliness is not a diagnosis, it's a signal. Your nervous system is telling you something essential is missing, and it's right. Second, stop waiting for organic friendship. It doesn't exist anymore, not at scale. You have to be intentional now. You have to create structure where culture used to provide it. Third, say the thing out loud. The biggest lie we're all living is that everyone else is fine. They're not. Real talk, none of this erases loneliness immediately. You can understand every sociological factor and still feel it in your chest on a Tuesday night. But reframing it from personal failure to systemic failure changes everything about how you respond. You stop isolating further in shame. You stop blaming yourself for not being enough. You start building the infrastructure around you that was stolen by efficiency and convenience. You become deliberately inefficient with your time because that's where connection actually lives. In the margins, we've been taught to optimize away. The society that created this problem keeps offering you individual solutions. Download this app, try this meditation, be more vulnerable but not too much. They'll never tell you to demand different urban planning, different work structures, different metrics of success beyond productivity. Because if enough people started asking why we organize society this way, why isolation is the default and connection requires overtime, the whole thing unravels. Your loneliness is political. It's profitable and it's not yours to fix alone. So stop treating it like one. Tell the truth about how you actually feel. Build the regular structure that forces contact even when motivation fails. Choose people and show up for them imperfectly and repeatedly. Forgive yourself for being human in an inhumane arrangement. The loneliness won't disappear, but it stops being evidence of your brokenness. It becomes what it actually is, a rational response to irrational conditions and a compass pointing you back toward what you actually need. Which is each other always has been. Stop treating loneliness like your personal failure. Start asking who benefits from your silence. Subscribe if this hit different. Video resonated with you, hit subscribe. Uncomfortable Truths releases new videos every day on personal finance, relationships, mindset, and productivity, and more. Turn on notifications so you never miss one. The truth is uncomfortable, but it's always worth it.